Are you going to show the video?
No. The video kind of does what I did in the second half of the talk in like 3 minutes. But the bucketboard.org is the website for all this, and the video's right there. And also there's a video of us giving the boards to the 20 kids in New York and 20 kids in LA, so you can see that they actually work. But yeah, it's the bucketboard.org. I thought of that. My wife said, "Why don't you just show the video?" And I was like, "Well, then what would I talk about?" So, yes.
Now that you are a father, an artist, a commercial designer, children, how much do you skateboard?
It depends on your definition of skateboard. As a mode of transportation, pretty much daily. But I don't leave the ground anymore. So.
As you passed 27 and changed how you worked a bit and how you kind of interacted with potential clients or clients, was there a catalyst in kind of how you presented your work to clients or potential clients, or the exchange in how you spoke about what you did?
I think a number of there's a fair amount of componentry that went into that. Maturing about how to be more brief with my message and more concise. Also knowing what my message was. Because through the art practice, which is like I said, at that point I look back and I had always been making art. And at that point I thought, okay, I want to be more serious about the art. So I was introduced to Pavel Zubak, who's my art dealer, is my dealer. And we found but that symbiosis is very important because you need to find someone it's not a one-way street, that you need to find a partnership. But you know what changed a lot with that is the format in which I could express stuff. I mean, I remember like at one point I made these DVDs that I made like a little wood backing for and sent them out. And now I can like text someone. So there's a lot of stuff that went in. Does that answer your question kind of? Yeah, I think probably the most important thing was figuring out more specifically being more concise with my messaging, but also knowing what that messaging was about more, which is time, you know. Yes?
I have a question that everyone will want to know. What's next?
What is next? I got a couple things cooking. My buddy Duke Riley and I are making campaign stickers for Thomas Paine. So that's Paine2016.com if you want to check those out. I'm putting up an enormous sign on the front of the Invisible Dog next week, an artwork sign. That's going to be a 37-foot long sentence. Thanksgiving. I don't know. That's all before Thanksgiving. So I know. Yes.
What's been your most valuable failure?
My most valuable failure was when I sent out those 37 reels, or whatever it was, and I got like a 40% return rate of like people calling back from a cold call, which is huge, and I was like, bullshit, why isn't everyone calling me back, you know? And it was like my wife took me aside and was like, you're ridiculous, because there are hundreds of people who maybe they aren't as talented as you, but they want to do what you're being a jerk about. So just don't do that then. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But please don't be a jerk about it. So I think that my reaction to that was my most valuable failure, or maybe my wife's reaction to that was my most valuable failure. Yes.
So you were talking about your friend at Stoke and a friend that knows someone at Element, and it is, from my perspective, you need like an awesome network of people to make awesome work. So specifically, I guess at the beginning of your career, how did you network? How did you meet?
Alcohol, really, you know. Just going to bars and hanging out. I think that takes a lot of time, you know, and I feel like, you know, years ago, I was pressing really hard and things, you know, weren't going all that great, and I would sort of, like, why wasn't I known by that person, or why don't I know that person? And I don't think I've really changed any of the way I've done things. I've just calmed down about it, because I think that sort of network that you build, it takes a natural progression that's a very human progression that isn't about like, you know, calling someone with an agenda and making it happen. It's about doing what you want to do, love to do, need to do, and sort of staying cool about it and finding people who you jive with along the way. And then you look up and you have a community. It's also putting yourself in the right position. I was told, I mean, I'm lucky enough to be at the Invisible Dog Art Center, where there's a natural community around me because it's like-minded people curated by Lucien Zion, who makes this building a place where people who really want to work come. So it's finding places, it's like finding opportunities, but not in an opportunistic sense, if that makes any sense, you know?
When I was 32, my father was a cabinet maker, and I had a choice between starting a gig as a Finnish carpenter or running an after-school math program for about 40,000 kids in Philadelphia. And I left Austin to do that. Missed out on your biggest failure choice of like career path. What did I miss?
You know, one of the things I was told to be wary of going into in the commercial world was that like the client level is like they're going to say stuff like more blue but less blue and all this. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. And you know, like when a big motor company is your client, you miss nothing because that's the same thing that someone wants when it's like carpentry in that sense. So that I found out. But the part that is good is just the working with your hands. I mean, that's why I did it, because I would go home at night and my hands would hurt, my knees would hurt, and I would have done something. And I could look at what I did and say, I made that thing. And so but I don't think you need to like not do awesome work with 40,000 kids in order to do that. Yes?
When do you sleep?
I resent sleep, actually. It's like I feel like I could be doing something. And my kids have helped tremendously with that. You know, I really appreciate that. I try to get like 6 hours of sleep a night. And I do a thing, like my wife and I work together, and that's good and bad in the sense that when the kids go to sleep, we open our computers, we start working again. And not always. We're across from each other, you know, usually drinking some wine and laughing and enjoying it, but we work a lot. But we love what we do, so it doesn't feel awful. Thank you. My pleasure. Can I go grab my hat and sit down?
By the way, Mac's way of procrastinating when working on a talk is building a podium. I fill in with the slides for eternity, and he builds a podium. That's why I love it so much.
All right, I'm gonna go
Thank
sit
you,
down.
Mac.
Thank
This
you,
was
Tina.
amazing. Thank you again.